Today, we're going to talk about the three messages from Christ for the Great Tribulation, to survive the Great Tribulation. All right. Now, it's found in Revelation 14. It's called the Everlasting Gospel. And Revelation 14:6 starts or introduces these messages with these words. Preach unto them that dwell on the earth and to every nation. So it's not just for people. Okay, it's also for nations. That's how important this is. Now, we want to go back to the book of Daniel, the first Babylon, and then bring our thoughts to the end time Babylon, the one that issues 666. Now, that's 2,600 years, and prophecy hasn't ended yet. So it's 2,600 plus years. Now, to set up the scenario, I've got 5 points on the left. Number one, there will be only two opposing sides in the end time Armageddon, but it's a global Armageddon where the true God is in contrast to the false God. And the problem really is the false God system claims itself to be representative of the true God. Now, how to discern? Number two, to be just. God must reveal 666 of the false God. If not, then God is not just. Number three, Christians must discern the false for the sake of the worldwide unbelievers. Because Christians are meant to give the message of who the true God is and who the false God is. Number four, Christians must preach and prove the true versus the false. If not, how can people be convinced? Number five, prophecy and history together leave no room for doubt in revealing 666 even now. In other words, we can know its identity. All right, now let's read Amos 3:6-7 on the right. Shall a trumpet be blown in the city, and the people not be afraid? Shall there be evil in a city, and the Lord has not done it? In other words, the Lord will always warn a city and blow a trumpet. Surely the Lord will do nothing, but he revealeth his secret unto his servants, the prophets. In other words, God will do everything possible to reveal secrets, mysteries, prophecy unto his servants, the prophets. Now, to understand it further, we must understand symbolism. And the symbol I've got to address, because it's relevant to this talk, is a woman. Symbol of a woman equals church. Can be a righteous church, a pure church, versus an apostate church. All right, now, so for Zion on the left, a pure church. In Jeremiah 6:2 at the bottom, it says, I have likened the daughter of Zion to a comely and delicate woman, obviously the pure church. Revelation 12:17 talks about a woman, the pure church as well. And the dragon was wroth with the woman and went to make war with the remnant of her seed, which keep the commandments of God and have the testimony of Jesus. So the woman, in this case, pure church. Now, the impure church on the right, Lamentations 1:17, Jerusalem, when it was rebellious, is as a menstruous woman, unclean woman. Revelation 17:5. Now, this is about Babylon, that false church, that apostate church. Revelation 17:5 says, and upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and the abominations of the earth. Now, why am I emphasizing church and state? Because on earth, where corrupt man in medieval Europe, Holy Roman Empire, tried to put church and state together, it was disastrous. It led to enforced worship, a claim that that church is the only church through which there is salvation. Right? The Bible was hidden, was locked up, and the people were exploited. And how were they exploited? The church and the kings, the nobility, were in union, illegitimate union, because man, as corrupt as he is not entitled to take church and state together. And there is much biblical references for that. Now let's read what's on the left. Number one, priesthood, the church, and the Roman governor, the state. When they both were united, they crucified Jesus. Number two, King Uzziah. In 2 Chronicles 26, Uzziah wanted to be a priest to burn incense in the temple. The priest resisted him, and God intervened. God turned him into a leper as he stood in the temple, and he died a leper. Number three, now Herod, Israel, right, church or religion. And Herod was appointed by Rome. So Herod was in between Rome, the state, and the church. And Herod wanted to slay baby Jesus. Number four, Jezebel and King Ahab, queen and king, together persecuted and wanted to kill Elijah. Number five, Nebuchadnezzar and the worship of the golden image. Now, Nebuchadnezzar was that head of gold, right, in that metal man image. He was told that the next kingdom would be Medo-Persia, chests of silver, and so forth and so forth. But he was so ambitious that his kingdom should never fall. So he made an image all of gold and enforced worship. So there's a king, right, state, and he wanted worship. And in one man was church and state. Now, at the time of the end, Revelation 17 identifies Babylon at length. But I'm just going to read verse 1 and 2, and you will see that Babylon is church and state, with the church being in power. The judgment of the great whore, right, church, woman, that sitteth upon many waters, with whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, illegitimate relationship, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication. The people are drinking in this, accepting this wine as good. That's the wine of her illegitimate relationship. So at the time of the end, Babylon is apostate end-time churches, right? And this apostate end-time churches will enforce worship using the powers of the state. Now, there's history to it. In fact, 1,260 years of history. The Holy Roman Empire had the church, represented by the Pope, over the nobility, the kings and queens, because, well, the church held, or the Pope held, the salvation of even kings and queens in their hands. And then, of course, there was persecution because the church determined who were heretical and who were not, right? A kind of unbalanced view. And for example, when Protestantism started, they were persecuted by the Roman Church of medieval Europe. It was so bad in Europe that in France, the church and the nobility joined together to exploit the people. And it was disastrous. The people went hungry, they were overtaxed. And there was no bread. So the people revolted, killed the kings and queens, the French Revolution, and burned the churches, burned the Bibles. And Napoleon had to take the side of the people, appointed his General Berthier in 1798, and the state, the sword of state, inflicted or divorced the church, inflicted a deadly wound. And that is the deadly wound referred to in Revelation 13. All right, let's read Revelation 13:3. And now this is after the deadly wound. And his deadly wound was healed. And that no man might buy and sell, save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number 666 of his name. In other words, what are we to expect after the deadly wound, after 1798? Do we expect the Roman Church of medieval Europe to heal, persecute again, and to enforce a mark of worship, 666? Now, Time magazine calls the new church, the Roman Catholic Church, the new Roman Empire. So that's the question for today, right? For this study. Now, Revelation 18:7 is a quote from this healed church, right, of Revelation 13. In 18:7, it says, I sit a queen and am no widow. In other words, as a woman, a queen, I'm not going to be a widow. I want a king. And that's the ambition, right, of, well, the continuous ambition of the Roman Church, of the Holy Roman Empire. Now, angels and Christians are fellow servants of prophecy. And this is very clear. That's why we are asked to preach the everlasting gospel, to bring it to the world. Okay, let's read Revelations 1:1, an introduction to the book of Revelation. The revelation of Jesus Christ, which God gave unto him to show unto his servants, plural, servants, things which must shortly come to pass. And he sent and signified it by his angel unto his servant John, so that John can and should and must and does it wonderfully in the book of Revelation, giving it to us. Verse 3, blessed is he that readeth, and they that hear the words of this prophecy, and keep those things which are written therein, for the time is at hand. So prophecy is given for this time, particularly the end time. Revelations 19:10. Now, really focus on these words. And this is John in vision, right? He's so enthralled with the vision, so taken in that he begins to worship the angel, all right? And I, John, fell at his feet to worship him. And the angel said unto me, see thou do it not. I, the angel, am thy fellow servant, and of thy brethren, we are brothers, that have the testimony of Jesus. Worship God, for the testimony of Jesus is the spirit of prophecy. What is prophecy? It's the testimony of Jesus. It's the book of Revelation, not the book of Revelation only, right? But it's prophecy. That's the word of God. A testimony of Christ himself. Now, what is Christ's message for the world at this time? Revelation 14:6 summarizes and gives a term, a description to these three messages. Right? And these three messages are for the whole world, not just the people, but nations. And I saw another angel. Now, angel, the original word is malak, can be divine, can be angels with wings, can be people. Right? And I saw another angel, Christians, fly as if flying in the midst of heaven, having the everlasting gospel. Now, this is the gospel, to preach unto them that dwell on the earth, and to every nation, not just one, not just two, but every nation, and kindred, tongue, and people. Now, what's the first message? Revelation 14:7. The first message, in summary, is to worship the true God. But how does the message tell us who the true God is? Saying with a loud voice, fear God, and give glory to him, for the hour of his judgment is come. And worship him that made the heaven, the earth, and the sea, and the fountains of water. Who's this true God? The one and only true God, the creator God. And how do we remember that he is the creator God? Because the fourth commandment says, remember the Sabbath. Right? He created the world. Right? And what did he create? The heavens, the earth, the springs of water. Therefore, worship that true God. Now, what were the other two messages? So the first message directed our attention to the true God. And how we are to worship that true God. The second and third messages are warning messages of the false God. Now, second message, verse 8 says this. And there followed another angel saying, Babylon is fallen. Is fallen, that great city, because she made all nations drink the wine of the wrath of her fornication. Fornication, a legitimate church and state relationship, made nations do it, made nations, each nation form church and state in their nation, and where the dictates of the church are enforced by the state of that nation, by the government of that nation. So, in summary, in purple, global church and state unity is Babylon's wine. And every nation drank it, subscribed to it, did it. All right. Third message, verse 9 and 10. And the third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, if any man worship the beast and his image, and receive his mark in his forehead or in his hand, the same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of God. Now, first it is to nation. Nation, church and state unites, enforces it, and people, if any man worship, if any man yield to this enforced worship, okay, and receive this 666, either on his forehead or in his hand, the same shall drink of the wrath, the wine of the wrath of God. So either one drinks the wine of Babylon and the wine of the wrath of God, or they subscribe and worship the true God and reject the church and state unity and 666 that they are trying to enforce. So accepting church and state unity is receiving 666. Now, what does it mean to receive it either on the forehead or on the hand? There are people who are not religious, who don't believe in God of any sort, true or false, right? Whatever God, they reject. Now, these people will not yield their mind to believing in the false God. But because they're forced to accept 666, or they don't buy and sell, and later a death decree, they would yield with their hand. They will do it. Although their mind is against gods of any sort. So thorough is the enforcement. And so large and powerful is Babylon at that time. So, to summarize this, right, the main points. On the left is the first message. On the right is the second and third message. True God, false God. True worship, false worship. Number one, it goes throughout the earth. So even Israel will be brought into this global Armageddon, okay, of choosing the true God. In Revelation 14, the earth, in other words, the entire earth is mentioned 7 times. In other words, it's a global war, not a Armageddon located in Megiddo, Israel. All right, number 2, every nation is involved. Number 3, the world is being deceived. So Christians and Israel and Israelites and Messianic Jews have a responsibility to bring this message to the world. The world is being deceived. So this message in Revelation 14 says it's called the everlasting gospel. It has to go out to every nation, kindred, tongue, and people. So we have the everlasting gospel as our responsibility. So we're not just to know it, right, mentally. We are to live it and to preach it. Number 4, it is the hour of judgment. This is time of the end. 2 groups, either you're one or the other. It's the judgment of the living. There's no third middle ground, either on one or the other. Number 5, worship the Creator God. Keep the Sabbath. Now, what is church and state then trying to enforce? Obviously, 666, a mark of worship. They are enforcing or mandating an opposing day of worship to the Sabbath. All right. So the question is, what is this 666? What is this opposing, mandated, legalized, enforced opposing day of worship? So time of the end, true worship versus false worship. Now, this is only 20 minutes, no longer than 20 minutes of a video. And it's actually an introduction to a link of 10 sessions, 10 videos. And it's available to you. All you need to do is click at the description on YouTube to the first session, which would then, after you watch it, will link with another link to a second session, third session, and so forth, to all 10 sessions. Now, you can study this on your own. There's an email and a mobile number, or you can actually join our groups, our study groups, right? It's live, there's Q&A, there's discussion, and there's fellowship. And it's really wonderful because people tell us that they learn so much from the question and answer. So you've got your option, you can study on your own, giving you the links, following the links, or you can join us live. And to join us live for the next session, the next new group, you can, contact Roxana on her mobile or her email. And so I hope to see you live, actually. All right, bye-bye.